Welcome back to the NLC, ladies and gentlemen. We are halfway with our second day here in week 5, but we still have 2 more bangers coming up before we round out the day. Next up, it is Verdant taking on none other than Nord. Nord, who has been very up and down. They had an 0-2 week, then a 2-0 week, then an 0-2 week, then a 2-0 week, and now 0-1 this week. Can they bounce back and get their first 1-1 week and keep themselves relevant in the playoff race? Or will Verdant continue to dominate our league?
It seems as though, coming into this, Verdant should be our expected winners. But again, that was what we said last time these two teams played up against one another, and Noman ended up putting on a clinic and finding a match out of nowhere up against Verdant. And yesterday he did sort of the same thing against Natives, but unfortunately not to a winning success.
Yeah, and I think that was when I was doing some of my prep here. I think we've seen that Nord have got enough mechanical chops to at least bring it to the top end of the table. The issue is more consistency and holding their nerve. If you are going to get these leads, you need to be able to close it out. And you saw actually in the clutch moment, Oman get caught one time, game ends. And against a team like Verdant, you just can't do that. Maybe, though, if they can get a little bit more proactive, because Verdant are often a little slower in the early game, with the exception of punishing Ruddy a lot earlier yesterday, maybe they can find some earlier punches and not have to play from such a big deficit as they did yesterday. We are into picks and bans, and some of those have already come on through. Pretty distinctive bans on both sides.
No Hido Zayaban just yet.
True.
It is a very well sought after pick. And it is, as you mentioned, first pickable. I think that one of the issues I may see run into this game is that Naita has been typically bodying every single laning phase that he's been a part of, and as Oman is his counterpart in the mid lane, it may make that win condition for Nord a little less easy to come by. Seneca still has the option of a Nautilus. It's been a champion that he's defaulted to very frequently throughout, and it gives a nice addition to any form of CC engage that Nord are going to go for.
Okay.
Going for that Asir, yeah. And with that, the Saya, as you guys mentioned, has still been left open. Didn't get first picked in the end, though, by Nord and the Hido. So instead, Verdant could maybe look to pick that up, get the Saya Rakan. Instead, though, maybe going towards other AD carries that's also on the table. Maybe getting the mid lane matchup already sealed there with the ODC. Regardless, Kai'Sa will be the lock-in, a flex pick.
I will also say it is perhaps a little bold to blind first pick your mid laner into a guy like Naita. I don't know how I feel about that strategy. I mean, things like the Kai'Sa could be played into that. We've seen that before. You can just sort of match scaling and then kind of try and be a threat yourself. But it gives a bit of room to do something perhaps a bit spicier as the Amumu is locked in, and that's another flex potential option. Amumu jungle, Amumu support, definitely both things that have kind of been lurking around and about.
Yeah, both exist, and honestly, the Amumu pairing quite nicely with this new AP build of Kai'Sa that we're seeing come back to prevalence. The Amumu W, of course, now grants a little bit of true damage if you deal magic damage to somebody who's been marked by it. But Zyra can't get locked in as a response. Now, of course, there is an option that this Kai'Sa Amumu is going to be your mid-jungle duo, or it could also be the bot lane duo. The latter, of course, being much more likely, but certainly something to keep your eye on.
Figured it out. We've got a bird in the mid lane. We've got birds in the bottom support role. We just need birds for the rest of the team, and birds of feather flock together. We know how it works. It's genius. I think that's fair. I'm not sure that counts.
Okay.
Close.
Well,
okay.
Sorry then,
Tarkos. I'm disappointed.
Not today.
I know. All right. Well, Jace. Yeah. Jace locked in poke. Yeah. Then they got actually. The other thing is, Amumu stun sets up for both those pokes to land for free. It's why Jace Maokai is such a potent combo. Even if they ban it themselves, you need to kind of see what Verdant want to get rid of. They get rid of the Nocturne, which we saw yesterday, which worked out pretty well for Indecision at points of the game. Certainly was able to threaten things like the Jace in the side lane a little bit, and clearly Verdant don't want to have to deal with that. On the other side for Nord, I think they're probably going to be looking to potentially pinch some of the pools. Well, the problem is they've got some flexes to deal with, so they've got to try and work out where they actually want to pinch. They're deciding that Nile is where they want to focus, and that's understandable with how much he took over yesterday. I wonder whether you see a Fiora ban here as well to kind of just double down on getting rid of some of Nile's more dangerous split push and just like carry options.
But and the thing is, right now the Verdant down red side, they will yet again have the counter pick for Nile if they so choose. So the thing is, Nord will have to show their hand earliest. So with the Fiora being banned away, that kind of trims the pool that Nile has to go for. Very good ban there for Nord in my opinion, as you highlight as well. Initialize I think Nord so far very happy with the draft. They're having secured a strong 2v2 in the bot lane. They got the mid lane they wanted, considering it being a first pick as well. If they can just get a fine enough matchup for Kashkash in the top lane, I think they should be very happy here, but depends on what they get in the end.
So they flex the Nautilus, or they flex the Amumu rather, I suppose, into the jungle, giving Taxer a bit more agency. Throw him the level 3 marker when he finds that bandage toss skill, and of course pairing up with Wendell is going to make for a lethal duo with a lot of CC and a lot of damage to back it up if you get a Void Seeker and Accelerated Shock Blast from downtown. Now Nord, they've been setting up for a tank pick here for Kakos. He's been playing these tanks pretty much throughout the season, has been a dependable rock in the top lane for Nord. Those bans on Gwent and Fiora suggest that you're looking for Cassante, you're looking for an Ornn style champion to just round out this and make a fully fledged forward composition.
Cassante would make some sense here. Obviously, a very potent pick is very high skill cap. You can potentially match and try and trade blows with something like a Jax that might come in from melee if he does want to continue going towards those kind of curry options he's been bringing back out of the stable for as the split's gone on. And it's also a little bit more frontline right now. You've got the Jarvan and the Cassante who will be good sort of like E-targets for the Rakan to try and find his own secondary engage coming on in. And the other thing then is basically if Amumu and Nautilus go in, your ability to try and counter-engage is pretty good. And with the Azir and the Xayah being decent and pretty, or even better at finding their own disengage, you can try and punish that attempted dive, that attempted pick from the side of Verdant. And in the end, LA will go towards the Renekton.
Okay, right. I want to play a little game with people at the minute. Sam, you may be a little more familiar, but Duckling as well. Are you familiar with the phrase British tapas?
No, I assume it's a worse version of tapas.
Yes, it is. Decidedly worse.
I'm not answering
so typically, what British tapas is just like onion rings, lots of basic beige food
it's like
that you would just cook.
It's like party sausages, the little tiny ones, the cocktail sausages,
exactly.
and cheese cubes and pineapple.
Think kids' birthday parties. It's a lot of basic, normal vanilla foods. And it reminds me a lot of Nord's composition. Also, the beige nature reminds me of the colour palette of the compositions. But all of these champs fit in that role quite decidedly. There's not too much flavour in them. It's just, okay, well, we need this. We need a stable rock for our role. Exactly. Nothing is going to...
Fraser in our production chat. Yeah. For throwing in a picture example. Oh, God.
There's a great sample in our production chat. But basically, the composition that's been drafted, I do think... It's just perfect. It's just perfect British tapas as a composition.
There's something seriously wrong with you guys' country. That's all I have to say. I'm glad I'm not from the UK, man. What in the world are you eating? The beans as well.
I've visited. Beans are fine for breakfast, and they're good with a fry-up. And they're not bad on toast, but it's kind of like easy comfort food. It's not really
garlic bread,
anything else.
Garlic bread is MVP.
That's it. That's the
garlic bread is
flavor on that table. I've seen what's on that picture. No one else can see what's going on though, guys. So I'm moving on from British tapas, which is missing pork pies and Scotch eggs to be truly proper. Anyway,
can we get it on broadcast?
Please no. I refuse.
Let's talk about the Verdant comp as well, because like I say, the Nord composition, fairly plain, fairly stock standard in its nature. We've got Verdant who have gone for this more poke style of composition. They've got a lot of setup for the poke as well. If they can land the engage on Tax or Wendell together, they've got a lot of CC to set up for, as mentioned, long range artillery. And then you've got Nilla in a side lane who can do a lot of work on the Renekton, and he can also do very well in team fights as well when you hit that mid game, presumably at an advantage when you expect to get versus the Cassante.
I think I would also point out that there is quite a lot of ability to just go for burst beyond the pokes. Once you get someone low, the moment Amumu dives in, Nautilus dives in, and then Jace Kai'Sa get to go in for Jace with his hammer form, Kai'Sa by pressing R and then getting the Q on afterwards. Your burst of the single target is really high. Renekton adding into that single target CC. Your ability to just blow up a key target, blow up the first target, and try and play out fights from there is pretty high. And of course, if it goes wrong, you are still dealing with, late game Xayah Azir. We've all seen Bin today do unspeakable things on Cassante. And that could definitely be a difficulty as the game goes on. But if you're caught out of position, if the burst comes on through, that Jace and Kai'Sa have definitely got the setup to allow them to really pounce and blow up a target from quite a long way away.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I in particular just like Nida on Jace. He's really, really good at the champion. And the thing is, he's able to gain lane leads as well, right? So whenever we see the Jace, first of all, it's not an 0-4 Jace or an 0-5 Jace. It's a Jace that is already about to spike, and then 1 or 2 good fights, he's able to completely just take over the game. So I've been very impressed with that. The thing is, though, now up against Oman, who does have a lot of range here on this, I don't know if laning will be as easy for him. Regardless, though, maybe he just requires the assistance of Texa. Nila here, though, let's see what he does. Just tries to see where the opponent is starting. Indecision has started down on the bot side, so it will be him clearing up towards the top side.
I want to take a quick moment to zoom out a little bit, look at the context of this game. Nord obviously coming into this, not 4-4, as the lobby at the top says, 4-5 at present. This game for them, I'm going to say it isn't a be-all and end-all must-win. It's a great litmus test to see how strong they are as a team when they're on fire. But they've got 3 games in the future which are very important. They're playing up against Fourth Wall, Ruddy, and Domino, all very close competitors for their future games. And if they find a win here, it's a great confidence boost for those more important games when we're talking about the potential playoff implications. Because they've got 3 games there, like I said, if they take all 3 of those, it's not just wins for them, it's losses for the surrounding teams. So this one today up against Verdant is going to be a great building block for them for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and again, reminder, of course, with Fourth Wall winning earlier, Veneer losing. That race for that 4th spot gets quite tricky, especially with the form at Fourth Wall on. That game is going to be so big. Verdant, though, I suspect are not going to make this an easy one for Norway, especially with how consistently they have been playing. We don't see the same level of volatility out of this team, and particularly the likes of Gooby and Niter feels like a pretty much unmatched carries in the league right now.
For me, watching Verdant, and this isn't a criticism of them, this is more of a
hallmark.
Yeah, it's slightly, in a sense, boring, but boring is always best, right? Because you know what you get from them. Yeah. It is 5v5 technology that they are always going to come out on top of. And when you watch them in these team fights, it's very, it's actually the complete opposite, right? It's very entertaining to see them in these 5v5s, but it's getting to those points, and it's become formulaic, I think is the best word for it, because they know exactly how they want to play out these games, and so far, 8-1, they've done a splendid job at doing that.
Yeah. Did get over production that there's a little bit of a bug. Nord, remember, are 4-5. They're not a game behind everybody. So again, they do kind of want to keep this one up to sort of put the pressure on Ruddy, keep themselves ahead of people like Fourthwell, who've suddenly put their foot on the accelerator. And I think playing with a little bit of spice, yes, is a nice start, but a little chunked out, indecision hanging around. You want to wonder whether there might be an angle to look in there.
Ties into the whole expectations of Nord as well, right? You want to be in the playoffs, but you were the big organization coming in, or the new big organization. But let's see what happens here. Venton, he wants to fight, and he definitely goes for it, commits the flash, forces 3 summoners with that simple use of a button. The flash from both Seneca and Hito alongside the cleanse as well. So Spider getting a kill, very happy with that.
That's a fairly big one as well, right? You basically burn flash on Nautilus, who's gonna have a Hex Flash, so he doesn't care that much about that being down. And in trade, you get Cleanse Flash off Xayah. That's huge. That's such an easy return gank, especially earlier on, where you can look to flex that into something like a Dragon or a Herald, which are so key in these early moments. That's a rough pair of summoners to lose, especially when we've just been talking about how Verdant can be very dominant and very oppressive once they start getting leads.
Now, there is a window on that, of course. As soon as level 6 comes through for Hido, the ease of re-execution on that gank is going to obviously sky or go through the floor, unfortunately, for Verdant. That Xayah level 6 is just so good for keeping her nice and safe. If you can see a return gank before Hido dings 6, they should be good to probably find a kill, honestly, unless Seneca can work some miracles. But, like I say, that clock still exists. The attacks are up on this top side. He is farming slightly more efficiently than Indecision. There could be a fight over this Scuttler, and with a level advantage, you expect Taxa to, at the very least, have a good end of these skirmishes. Indecision decides against it and gives the crowd.
Niter? Hang on. He's taking so very low. Had to flash.
Yeah, he's dead.
What?
Solo bowler for first blood for Omen there. I mean, he just punished Niter's over-aggression. Niter wanted to clear the wave and get a bit of poke damage on Omen. Saw the opportunity, shuffled him into the wall or underneath the turret, forced the flash out, and that is absolutely crucial there. Now able to freeze the wave.
What's been put in this guy's water this week? This is a guy who, when I was doing prep, I had him in both strengths and weaknesses for the side of Nord. Like, sometimes he was an absolute god, and sometimes he just made brain dead plays. Yesterday, he was the hero. Just couldn't quite get it over the line. Today, against Niter of all people, he pulls off a solo kill like that. That is exactly what you want to see if you're a Nord fan.
And in fairness, one of the... I want to credit Oman like specifically for the punishment there of the mistake that Niter made. I think that Niter has maybe gotten a bit restless in this mid lane after stomping so many lanes back and forward, not respecting the caliber of this level of mid laner. And Oman just quite rightfully puts him in his place and says, hold on, you can't queue like that. This is a 3v3 brewing here.
Oh, they know it, and they just go straight for indecision. They cancel the flag and drag indecision. Force the flash to stay alive, the ignite ticking. Nowhere near enough, but still forces the cooldown out, and they stop Nord's play in their tracks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good disengage.
With that,
yeah, it's a good disengage, but overall, that was just alright from both sides. Good to see that Verdant are trying to make a bit more of it here as they've tried to sneak into this red buff. Unfortunately, they've been spotted out, and Nord are going to be able to claim their own red side buff. But overall, nothing actually happened. There was a flash burned, but again, it's Verdant missing out on that window that I'd like to see them used on that bot side. We've seen Hido Xayah be incredible in team fights, and I think as again we see this game get later and later, the Xayah is going to offer you more consistent DPS you would expect in a team fight than the Kai'Sa, who, you know, again, can't tell you how much the poke hurts, but for a consistent DPS threat, Hido is going to win out.
And I also like the fact that Nord are willing to try and put Niter under some pressure, especially because he had made the early error. And if you can get Oman, who, as you said, has kind of been stepping up these last couple games into a position where he can be that dangerous backline late game threat, you feel so much better as Nord taking this game later, because you do have a really excellent front to back. Especially when you've got those kind of hyper-scaling carries in that Xayah, and particularly the Azir, who's off to a pretty solid start to the game.
I want to point out direction towards the top side here now. Herald on the map as the 8-minute point has been reached. In the meantime, though, it was needed being able to take down 2 plates from Kashkas. So he's able to build up a slight lead here as Kashkas looks to start up the Herald. Indecision here as well, that Vettel has rotated up, so they got pretty far away. But with the priority being Nord favored in both mid and top, they are the ones to start it up. In the end, reset, so
unfortunate.
That will take a while, as Texa is just taking his red buff in the meantime.
Yeah, I don't think they can go for this. Kashkas is going to lose quite a lot on this top side if they stay too long for this. It looks like if they've just committed to burning it down, though, they might actually be okay. And again, it's a sacrifice for somewhere on the map for Nord, because we've got Gooby now free-firing in the bot lane. He's going to be able to probably take himself a plate, uncontested wave as well. All of this so that they could move everybody up to this top side, sort of give Hido a bit of time into the mid lane and make sure that if a fight was to break out, they would be okay to take it. And it's a commitment for a Rift Herald. It nets 1 plate for Gooby on the bot side of the map, and now we get to see sort of whether or not the Herald usage from Nord is going to be worth more.
Yeah, and it also credit over to the sides like Hido and stuff, and perhaps more of a question mark out the likes of Verdant, those who I meant, in the fact that Hido didn't have his summoners pop, they didn't look back down there, those are all back up, he's now got the ultimate as well, and yes, you managed to take the opportunity to get some vision into that red side jungle and maybe look to move towards this dragon or a dive if it's possible, but Nord are very well aware of this as well, and it's a lot harder now with those summoners and that ultimate available to really put the pressure onto Hido in this match.
I want to mention, though, the level lead that Gooby has been able to build up. Vettel has been rotating quite a lot around the map, looking for possibilities, and that just means Hido, who has been a lot more with the neck, and now 2 levels behind level 8 to level 6, so we see a difference between them as well. Gooby has been able to build up a little lead here. Let's see what Nila does in the top lane. Shouldn't be able to get the kill. Kashkas pretty tanky on that Cassante, but a good trade there, so Nila ahead of his opponent, able to get the plates. Gooby down in the bot lane. Small lead there as well, and that's just what leads into this 400 goal difference, despite Nord being the only team with a kill.
Looks like they're going to go for a top play as well here. Nila stacking this wave. 3 people go for the dive. Kashkas has got ulti, so the opportunity to take somebody across the wall definitely exists, but it's a hard outplay.
No one's going to be able to support.
Let's see if
it's just a 3v1.
Texa does have Curse of the Sand Mummy available. It's simply a CC chain and nicely gifted over to Niter. The plate falls as well. That's more gold into the Verdant pocket. Now 1,000 gold ahead. Nice play overall. Clean execution.
The teleport available towards towards mid lane as well, so they're not going to lose too much there. Herald does come down, and naturally Niter has to flash on out. Nice punish there from Nord as Niter tried to get his cake and eat it too. And They do get some plates in mid lane at least. Oh, Wendell thinking about going maybe a bit further.
Able to get 2 plates, but with Wendell rotating that much around the map, hasn't hit the level 6 point yet. Depth charge not available, so hard for him to really lock anyone down successfully.
We're 11.5 minutes into this game, and Wendell still hasn't hit level 6. It's like a lot of commitment from Wendell to make plays happen around the map, and ultimately hasn't actually achieved anything. 0-0-0 on the scorecard, not quite what you'd be after. But again, the repercussion of this is that Gooby has been getting pretty much solo experience for the last 5 minutes. Now they've seen Wendell walk. This is TP.
He does have a flash. He wants to try and do something creative, and that's a bit of Spider-Man to safety. Omen though, gonna look to close the gap. Oh no! The Emperor's Divide goes wide, and it's a horror situation as Wendell Spider-Man's his way home to safety. Ay.
Okay, Wendell, you should have died there. You know you should have died there. That was a bit of a mess from Nord on... Basically, they fumbled the pick. That should have been a very, very easy pick on the Nautilus, and instead, he gets out with a good use of the flash and the dredge line. It's going to cost them a dragon as well. That's really unfortunate.
12.5 minutes isn't typical for me to see the first Drakes go down, but means that we're just going to hit ourselves a very late soul, if at all. Last game, soul just wasn't needed before the game ended up closing out. Nord, though, still very much in contention for this game, right? 1.5k gold, not the worst thing, even though the swing of things has definitely not been in their favour. This is a good example, I think, of where we have poke compositions trying to make plays early because they know that they need to have an advantage. Versus we've got the Nord composition, which is just 5v5 boilerplate team fighting. If we get into a big skirmish where everybody's involved, the expectation is that Nord, if they're at parity, should be able to take the fight.
Should is the point there, though. And again, like, if you start to see some more of the kind of Verdant-esque just map movements and lane assignments where they do get to sort of potentially abuse the advantage that Renekton has early, maybe Nita teams up with people to try and blow people up the sideline, like, maybe you don't get as many opportunities to have that happen. It's not like Verdant are a bad team fighting team themselves, so... Or, sorry, bad team fighting comp themselves, to clarify. So it's still a little bit more work to be done by Nord, and they need to not fumble the picks they do make when they're trying to put those out. Like, you can't mess those up, because that did hurt them yesterday. Nile's likely to just get this top tower pretty much for free.
And I do want to say as well, first items have just come in for pretty much everyone who needs it on the side of Verdant, which gives them this window to try and play aggressive because they haven't really been hit on the side of Nord, and they go for that window as well. Very good Curse of the Sand Mummy, and there comes the Killer Instinct. 2 people already cleaned off the map, and now Nida will look for the third, gets it as well, and that is a perfect fight, perfectly executed from Verdant.
Roundhouse sweep there from Verdant. Everybody collapsed from all angles. Tax with a gorgeous Curse of the Sad Mummy. Wendell engages it all as well, and it all just seems fluid, honestly, for Nord. Hido, never a part of that fight, so he couldn't really become involved in a 3v4 with an already advantageous gold lead. Verdant, they're going to maybe look to break open the mid-tier 1 after the fact, but that fight was just crisp from them.
And turns out if you spend enough time at the bottom of the sea like Nautilus has, you become phenomenal bait, because that is twice now the Nord have been looking for this guy and being punished for it. Last time it was just egg on their face. This time it cost them a lot more. They're going to lose the bot lane turret off as well because the resets can be a bit late. Maybe they can get the punish as a result of this.
Ultimate, though. No flash as well, so can't really make the step engage. As you can look for the W. Very good hit, actually, both onto both of them. Wendell will go down. Good flash away from Gooby. But it's both sums, and I think Neil is in a lot of trouble here. He's in the face of 5 man. He can dash around, though. Still has the Goldringer. Heals up and gets a kill before he goes down eventually. In the face of 5 opponents, he finds a 1-for-1 trade. Nile, that's certainly a W.
They're just taking tower and mid at the same time. So it costs you another tower to go 2-for-1.
Wow. I call worth if I'm Verdant, honestly. Right? Mid-tier 1 again. The map control that taking down that tier 1 turret gives you can never be undervalued, and is very difficult to put into a gold value just because of how easy it makes the rest of your mid-game strategies.
They're going to Herald afterwards as well. They're trying to get absolutely everything off the back of this.
Indecision used to block.
Yeah, he does.
But I mean, they can take the 2v2 though. Verdant back full HP, flag and drag doesn't go wide. Verdant gets exploded. No, wow. Yeah, I guess they couldn't take the 2v2.
I'd say that's more than block, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow.
Goredrinker, by the way.
Fair item.
It is fair. It's just it it's just really strong early on.
Yeah.
It's just really strong early on, guys, and I think that we got to see Indecision use it really well there. We got to see Nilla pull off some disgusting things with it just a couple of minutes prior, and that's sort of the two sides of the Gore Drinker coin for both of these teams, is that if they're using those spikes well, then obviously they're going to be looking to come out ahead of these team fights, but for the time being, Verdant, again, despite the fact that our kill score may be very close, are the team that are 4,000 gold to the good.
Almost just TP'd into the bot lane there. Maybe looking for a play on Kubi, but Kubi nicely stopped his recall and was able to get away to safety. Has a lot of gold to spend. 30 seconds on the next Drake. I know the first one was taken very slowly, but maybe this one will be higher priority. As Verdant could look to start stacking those Drakes up. Nida has mid control. Kubi fresh from the reset as well.
I do want to say as well that this Kai'Sa build actually takes quite a while to come online. A lot of our traditional AD carries are hitting 2 items and being very powerful. For me, the 2-item hit for a Kai'Sa isn't as strong as nearly any of our other critical strike marksmen, for example. You're really looking for that mythic to be finished on Verdant before Gooby isn't fully fledged assassin on the Kai'Sa.
What it does give you is some of that wave clear as a flash onto Oman will kind of flash in return from that Azir, and they'll get the summoner as well, but it is just a brief trade that doesn't actually amount to kill quite yet, but Verdant now have position over this dragon, and they're going to start it up.
Yeah, they want it for sure. 4k HP and dropping pretty quickly. Nida get some good poking. Oman half HP. So they on the flank though. Look, Venom though. He finds Hiddo, but he's safe for now. Still has the Feather Storm available. And on the other side of the fight, it is an Indecision that goes forward, unable to take down anyone. And Gooby flies in with the killer instinct into the backline. Very good banish just there. Locks up Hiddo, who's forced to flash away. Feather Storm already used, so now he has no way out to safety. Good Blade Caller. Will the snipe be there from Gooby potentially? Regardless though, a one fight for Verdant as they pick up 3.
It looked for a moment like an absolutely phenomenal flank from the side of Seneca. Gets into the backline, but Nita gets out, he survives, and then Gooby gets to go over the wall, chase him with that killer instinct. And yes, not at 2 items. And even then, as Rudu was saying, it's not the biggest 2-item spike you'll see on AD carry. It's still a real threat, and Verdant kind of just punished the fact that Oman doesn't have the flash, doesn't have the ultimate. Hiddo, again, kind of being forced to burn summoners in a way he wouldn't like to be doing so. Verdant are just getting further and further ahead in this game.
It's the contrast, right? Gooby may not be at 2 items, but Hiddo was basically on 1. There were a couple of longswords after the Kraken Slayer, and that was about as good a fight as Hiddo could have hoped for. Managed to use his Featherstorm to immune the Amumu ult. Great flash away from a couple of hooks as well. Multiple very good Blade Callers. Unfortunately, just didn't have the damage to back it up. Yes, the Xayah hits hard on 2 items, but we needed to see her get there first.
And this is sometimes the issue with oh man, never mind. We'll talk about that later. He's in so much danger.
I think he's Texan, no way. Just have to because of the said mummy, actually.
No, really?
Good slide and glide, and Oman could look to go out. Venom is there as well, but he doesn't have the depth charge either, and they can't find him through the minions. Ooh. This time it's Oman with the sneaky escape. Starts to recall instantly. Verdant not quite done, or Herald summoned. They could look to get the turret.
Swing and a miss. A near miss, albeit. But not quite able to find the Azir. And, you know, turret falling, that's a lot of gold for that turret.
TP on the
it is. And there is a teleport in, actually. They're looking to try and
force
onto this one. Yeah, actually, look at where the Xayah is. She's going to try and recall. No, she gets stopped!
Oh, and he's just dead, yeah. That's the combo of a 2-item chase that's just spiked. Wow. Goodbye.
Ow. I was about to follow up on that point that Rudu made in the fight about the fact that Hiddo really good escapes with all the feather calls, etc., etc., etc. But the problem we're finding in this game is, Wendell, what are you doing? Get away. All right, he's gonna walk away. It's fine. The part of the problems that the Xayah is facing is like she's being targeted so heavily that she's basically spending more of her time running away than doing as much damage as she wants, and because she isn't at the point where the Blade Caller is doing lethal damage. Or that you can sort of see that actually Verdant's focus is kind of stopping her from being a real threat. And if Oman is, you know, like that last fight, isn't being able to step up and use the freedom he's getting because Verdant are focusing on the Xayah instead, it's getting quite tricky for Hiddo to actually get, like, more than just, like, good escape paths.
There's a critical point in, every game of League.
Every time.
And I think this is just, I don't have a name for it yet, but I may well just call it the Azir juncture, where you no longer want to use your ult to swoop in and swoop people. You need to save it for safety and just keep doing DPS. Because we always see it, I feel like, in games where an Azir will dive forward, knock up a couple of people, but then instantly die, and it's like, but guys, look at the big swoop. It's like, no, at this point in the game, you're our DPS threat. I don't care about the CC you're providing unless it's to keep you safe. We need you to be constantly pumping out damage with the soldiers. Omon, unfortunately, is sort of falling into a different pitfall where he's just getting picked off and not really able to dish out damage. Needs to be a bit more priority focused from him on keeping himself alive.
Yeah, and we kind of called it out earlier on, right? That Verdant now just have so many tools to make a pick happen. And yes, Sai has ways to disengage them, but does she have enough to disengage a Nautilus Q and passive and ult? And then there's the Amumu double bandage stone and the Curses Harmony, and then maybe the Renekton coming to follow you as well. Like, that is so much you have to try and immune. Yes, you've got tools, but do you have like the arsenal required to get rid of that? And it's not like Seneca's got anything like a Mikhail's an inventory to assist with that as yet.
Interestingly enough, though, last game we saw Invoxner go for the more AP burst item instead of going for the Rage Blade. This time, though, Gubi looks to be going towards the more attack speed build in terms of his mythic.
I actually like this more. I've been spamming
Yeah, the other was more
Kai'Sa.
Assassin, right? The Loom Psycho.
This one just gives him more DPS. It makes him a bit of a more terrifying threat when we're looking at these fights. I don't know how well I like the synergy between that and Hail of Blades, because, you know, if you've got Lethal Tempo plus Rage Blade, you're absolutely popping off. Hail of Blades gives you that still assassin nature. So we are seeing Nord try and clear out some vision on this top side. Still on vision here. Wendell, we know, is more than happy enough to flash over walls for engagements.
I mean,
Yes, he is.
Soul Point is up as well now if Verdant wants to take it. Obviously, they can't just give up the Baron, but they have full control. There's no one really from Nord able to respond if they just bursted down in decision. Could be there somewhat quickly, but there is a lot of damage taking or objective taking in this Verdant roster, especially with Gubi. So let's see if Nord respond or if they just go up towards the Baron.
They are certainly trying to make sure they can clear out the vision there. The problem is, as you can see, there are a number of wards in the mid lane. Further down, there's one just behind the spotted off Hido and Indecision heading off into the river. They have cleared it out now with troll wards, but they're kind of forced into doing this because they really don't want to take the fight right now. The problem is, you're not miles off a third item on people like Gubi, and that gets really scary. You kind of heard it already that Kai'Sa really comes online with this kind of static Shiv builds once that Mythic is complete, once that static Shiv, or rather that Ludens or Rageblade in this game comes through, and you're already seeing that some of these fights are tricky. If you're now facing down another threat who's really online, it becomes increasingly tricky to find these fights, and you've got a Soul to contend with Informers, and the Baron is a possibility with the amount of DPS that Verdant have. Like, I wonder whether Nord are playing it just a little bit too passively, and they could use just that a little bit more proactively to try and get something, because I'm not sure it gets easier if they wait.
It's a thin margin between how much easier it gets the later they go, because they're also bleeding out quite heavily, right? As you mentioned, that yes, the later the game goes, the typically easier the composition becomes for Nord, but that also implies that they're taking these team fights at parity with one another.
Yeah.
That's just not the case at this stage in the game. You know, you're 5,000-6,000 gold behind at this point. Parity was long gone when there was a couple bot lane mis-executions, so Verdant, as long as they're more than happy to, you know, find these objectives and get themselves into a decent position, I think they're going to be happy to take any sort of fight, 5v5 or otherwise.
Oh, Vendel, yeah, missed the Q. Indecision looking for the re-engage, and there was certainly like a Vendel pull through the wall with the all-out, but Indecision a lot of trouble. Texa finds a good curse of this at momentum 2, and into the back line goes Scooby. He wants to find them all, and he flashes forward for the kills as well. He will look to clean up Oman, who got going with a stopwatch to buy some time, but it's a one fight for Verdant, and it's 3 kills in the pocket of Gooby, who takes over the game, and Verdant will break open the base.
When a Decathlon reigns, it pours. What a phenomenal Kai'Sa play. Comes in and eviscerates the side of it after Naita picks up a kill to begin that one all out as well. And what looked like an amazing moment from Nord just leads to the game being over.
Yeah, wait, this is just game. Yeah, 10 seconds still on Hido. It is only Seneca 2 and Indecision. And just like that, snap your fingers, close your eyes, blink or whatever, you'll miss it. It is Verdant just taking the game over Nord and improving the score to 9-1.
You can't say that Verdant aren't lethal with how they like to play out these games, honestly. The second they spot a way to find an end, they're going to go for it. And that was a play that was initiated by Nord as well. Verdant had, like we'd said, been more than happy to kind of be sitting back, relaxing in this game state. And as soon as Nord push the button once, unfortunately leads to their ultimate demise.
Yeah, like another thing that I can notice again, we saw Nilla yet again on a top lane with agency, right? And next in the top lane. So again, another showcasing coming through here. And the Amumu pick, Rudude. Not a super common pick, but a pick we've seen flex between support and jungle even at the highest level of play.
It was, and I think that Taxa, for me, piloted the champion as well as I would expect for Amumu, right? Not the highest skill cap champion itself, but also just making sure he was in the right place at the right time. One of my criticisms of Taxa previously been his sort of slower early stage of the game, but I go back to that 3v3 down on the bot side. He burned an early flash, got enough of an advantage, which then we didn't really get to see it, but led to Gooby somehow being 2 levels up and 40 CS over his counterpart through the mid game, and that felt incredibly important because Hido being so far behind led to many mid game team fights not really play their way.
Yeah, and we kind of had that statement, right? The fact that, look, yes, you're holding off and making these plays, but you're not realistically getting to 3 items in any reasonable time span, so that gets that's a tricky path to take. And Taxa was a large part of that, right? Because actually a lot of the bait plays around mid lane, just staying off vision to flash over walls, to get into big plays that turned around what looked like good picks onto particularly Wendell, was pretty nice. And actually, it also just made a lot of these carries' lives really, really difficult. The Xayah and the Azir were both victims of some of those bandage tosses as the games went on.
Yeah, I kind of want to throw back to this, which we saw Oman again with another great showing here this time around, opening up the game with a solo bolo, as you pointed out on the stream. Talking, I love the fact that we have solo bolo. It's just I know it's a long-term established thing in League of Legends, but it's just a great term. It's a great term.
It really is. I really can't believe Verdant were that clinical at closing up the game, right? Because I was waiting for Baron dance, and then slowly but surely just choking out Nord from the game, getting the turrets, building up an even bigger lead, maybe getting the soul in a couple minutes and then winning from that. But I will say Verdant are really good at finding the opportunities and then just pushing it to the absolute limits with what can we gain from this. They saw the opportunity just to run straight down mid and end the game, and they took it. Had they halted for maybe 10 seconds, should we go for the Baron, should we do something else or whatever, had they split up, they wouldn't have been able to end the game. So, I mean, they're definitely on the same page here, and I think this Verdant roster is looking very, very strong. And they almost just locked their spot in playoffs here, being 9-1.
And for me, that's the interesting thing here, and I'm going to throw this to you, Nicholas, right? Because when you compare Native's kind of a wishy-washy way of closing out games, what we've seen from Verdant in previous weeks as well, this is a very positive sign, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously for the side of Nord, this isn't a game they're going to be entirely happy with, but there were moments here, and actually things like the fact they were there to contest those mid lane roams from the fact that the jungle support was there is a pretty big deal. But I think on the side of Verdant, you just see that they are cleaner, bluntly. They just do it better right now. And also, they did have a little bit of a curveball in the draft, pulling out the Amumu, which I don't think is necessarily something people go into draft expecting necessarily. And it worked out really well to make, as we were saying, Xayah's life quite difficult in terms of all the things that she had to manage in order to be able to be in a position to do DPS. And she didn't get that opportunity. She was taken out of the game pretty early on by just CS discrepancies and stuff. So, yes, credit to Nord for making some of the right moves. The problem is Verdant just do them better right now.
And one of the people that did take out that Xayah in the early game was Venel, the support of Verdant. So congratulations, Venel, on a fantastic win, I'd say here. So I want to talk to you guys about the explosive fashion that you closed out the game in here. I would almost say uncharacteristic of what we've seen so far this season, but I guess that when you see an opening, you gotta take it.
Yeah, that's the thing with me. I'm on demon time when I play melee supports. If I see something, I go instant, no hesitation. I don't care. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. I really don't give a fuck. So I go in and I make it happen. And you saw it this game. Every time they step up, I flash in. I don't care. They need to go down.
There's just no mercy when you step onto the server, right? So do you think so you say you're on demon time, but would you also say this your preferred sleep schedule then to play these melee supports then, or what would say?
Yeah, the thing before it was Yumi Lulu, and I would say I'm pretty good at Lulu as well, but it's so goddamn boring. You press shield, then you press Q, and you're like, okay, what happens now? You just wait. You can't really do much, but with these champs that are going in meta now, you will see me go in perma, and like I said, I'm on demon time. It's my time to shine now.
Yeah, so again, also I want to talk to you guys now because with playoffs pretty much locked in right now, I'd say congratulations. No, I don't want to jinx anything just yet, but you are having a pretty impressive season so far. So if we start looking towards a potential EMEA Masters for you guys, right? Like, do you think that if we are going to stay in a meta that's not enchanted based, that's going to benefit you personally?
I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. I think I can play both, but I prefer a melee style. It's more fun to play the game. It's more action. And I think when I play melee champs, it's easy for me to short call as well because I make the decisions and I make the fights going. When I play Lulu, you cannot say start the fight here and then press Lulu Glitterland. So,
that's not quite a Nautilus hook, right? Like you're not really in the mix, exactly. I suppose. Before I let you go here, is there any final thing that you want to say? Anything you want to shout out? And you stream quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I stream on Twitch as well. I've been streaming for 3 months almost every day, and I've just been grinding. We had some crazy games yesterday on stream, and I'm almost hitting Challenger. So if anyone on the stream speaks Danish and likes to watch support gameplay, feel free to jump on my stream.
Awesome. That's going to be Verdant, I believe, if I recall
Yes,
correctly.
It is. Verdant.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on another great week for Verdant.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And with that, we're going to go over to the interview with Indecision over from the side of Nord. Hello, Indecision. So,
hello, mate.
Rough week? Or what are you saying?
It's the 2002 curse. It keeps going.
Hopefully
you managed to break it in the last week.
Also, a very rough set of games you've had this week, right? But do you feel like there are a lot of positive takeaways from you guys after facing the potentially 2 best teams in the league?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's like... Honestly, it's a bit less pressure, in my opinion, at least, to play against the best teams, because obviously you're an underdog, right? So if you're kind of expected to lose. So it's, in my opinion, should help us like be more decisive, but as you can see, it's not really the case. I think this game was all about us missing opportunities, honestly, and not just not pulling the trigger in time. Yeah, that's about it.
And so another thing I wanted to ask you guys about now, with the potentially 2 toughest matches, they're out of the way. We can throw them to the wayside. We can throw it to the wayside, right? Yep. Now you guys have a pretty obviously there's no easy matches in the NLC, but you have a pretty nice program to close out the season. Are you guys trying to battle that 3rd place spot instead of the 4th place spot once playoffs rolls around?
Honestly, we really are not even talking about the which spot we're aiming for. Like, we just want good gameplay, and that's it. Like, that's all that matters, because the results are gonna come anyway if we do that. So that's it.
That's kind of reflective of what whenever we've spoken with Nico as well in some of the interviews that you guys he's been given. What is it like working with an organization that focuses so heavily on like the player development aspects compared to something you might have worked with before?
Honestly, it's believe it or not, it's very humbling and motivating at the same time, because you're getting flamed, but like, you understand that it's for a good cause, right? I mean, you're not getting flamed, obviously, but like you get bluntly pointed out every single mistake of yours, and you get told that's okay, but we have to fix it now, right? And you, as well as I'm coaching you, you have to also work hard, right? That's the process. So yeah, it's very, very motivating. It makes me want to work hard. So yeah, I love it. I think we're in a very good environment.
Yeah, I don't think you want to coach me, to be honest. I think your eyes would bleed, to be completely honest. My pathing is so bad. But anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Thank you to all the fans, to the Nord fans, for supporting us, and we won't let you down.
Thank you so much for your time and decision, and best of luck next week.
See you, brother. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to throw to a short break. When we come back, it's Ruddy versus Domino, so let's see what they have in store for us.
Masters, please press the button. It's time for the main event. Players stand in place of their team, a champion's crown of what they dream. 2 tussling foes of cleavers they will throw till 1 HP bar hits 0, and one will rise to be claimed a hero. It's time for Mid-Split Mundo Bowl Madness. Let me welcome in our 2 freshest challengers. A man who they say has the dog in him, boasting 37 Leaguepedia entries, some even call him Mr. Worldwide. It's Wendell! And opposing this man is one who could not make up his mind, but he is ready to put any opponent in a bind. It's Indecision! Okay, we are ready to kick it off. Wendell in the red, Indecision in...
Ready, set, go.
On through and claim victory.
We're both shit, actually.
Match of the Mid-Split Mundo Bowl Madness. Now, we are going to see a bit of an early cleaver there coming out from Indecision and popping the early go. Seems like he has his strats down pat, but Wendell very much staying in this game, landing a cleaver back himself. A bit of taunting as well coming out there from the top side. You love it from Indecision as he lands again, and he's really pushing Wendell back into its own half, but Wendell stepping forward, trying to get that little bit of distance closed down to help him out, landing them cleavers. But so far, it is all Indecision, backing him up in the corner.
I'm so fucking bad at this.
Can he get one more? The last to finish it off. Take game 1.
Bro, you're getting smoked. Like this.
I got smoked.
Indecision.
Bro, I did 10 minutes of a little dodge game in the browser. You can't win.
And we are back in round 2. Side swap has happened, but will it be enough for Wendell to claim victory? Starts off with a heavy cleaver to land, but it is answered back by Indecision.
Bro, it's a wrap. It is a wrap, bro. Like...
Oh, oops.
2-0 and through to the next